Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the third video on job order costing. In this video, we will solve exercises on how to prepare entries for factory labor, how to compute the manufacturing overhead rate and under or over applied overhead, how to prepare cost of goods manufactured schedule and partial financial statements, how to prepare entries in a job order cost system and cost of goods manufactured schedule, and how to analyze manufacturing accounts and determine the missing amounts. Please like, subscribe and share my channel to search for accounting lessons and hit the notification bell button to alert you for the latest video. For all of your questions, comments and suggestions, please put them in the comment section below. And for webinar and guest speaker invites, please send me a message at accountingamir@gmail.com. Accounting is AK. We hope that this video helps students in their academic development and teachers in enhancing their lesson plans and teaching methodologies. We also hope that this video helps fresh graduates who want to refresh their learning on entries for factory labor, calculating the manufacturing overhead rate and under or over applied overhead, how to prepare cost of goods manufactured schedule and partial financial statements, entries in a job order cost system and cost of goods manufactured schedule, and how to analyze manufacturing accounts and determine the missing amounts. So let us start with solving an exercise on how to prepare entries for factory labor. The gross earnings of the factory workers for Vargas company during the month of January are 66,000. The employer payroll taxes for the factory payroll are 8,000. The fringe benefits to be paid by the employer on this payroll are 6,000. Of the total accumulated cost of factory labor, 85% is related to direct labor and 15% is attributed to indirect labor. Prepare the entry to record the factory labor cost for the month of January. Now, the factory wages payable is 66,000, so it is credited by 66,000. Employer payroll taxes payable is 8,000, so it is credited by 8,000, and fringe benefits are payable for 6,000, so fringe benefits are credited by 6,000, and the total factory labor will be debited by 80,000. So this is how we record the entry for factory labor cost. We go to part B now, and here we have to prepare the entry to assign factory labor to production production, and you can see it is given in the question that the factory labor is 85% related to direct labor and 15% is attributed to indirect labor. So work in process will be debited by 85% of 80,000, that is 68,000, and manufacturing overhead will be debited by 15% of 80,000, that is 12,000, and factory labor will be credited by 80,000. Next, let us solve an exercise on how to compute the manufacturing overhead rate and under or over applied overhead. Now, Duggan Company applies manufacturing overhead to jobs on the basis of machine hours used. Overhead costs are expected to be 325,000 for the year, and machine usage is estimated at 125,000 hours. For the year, 342,000 of overhead costs are incurred and 130,000 machine hours are used. So we have to compute the manufacturing overhead rate and the overhead rate will be the overhead cost, that is 325,000, divided by the total machine hours, and the total machine hours estimated is 125. Remember that we are going to take the estimated machine hours and not the actual machine hours, divided by 125, and this will give us 2.6 per machine hour. Now actual machine hours used is 130,000, and we will multiply by the standard rate, that is 2.6, and this is the cost that we have applied for overhead. Now before we go further, I would like to talk a bit more about the manufacturing overhead and under applied and over applied overhead. Now companies, they prepare financial statements that present aggregate data on all jobs manufactured and sold. The cost of goods manufactured schedule in job order costing has one exception, and that is the schedule shows manufacturing overhead applied rather than the actual overhead cost. Now the company adds this amount to direct material and direct labor to determine the total manufacturing cost. A debit balance of manufacturing overhead is said to be under applied overhead. That means the overhead assigned to work in process is less than the overhead incurred. While a credit balance of manufacturing overhead means that the overhead is over applied, and this means the overhead assigned to work in process is greater than the overhead incurred. So if actual is greater than the applied, the manufacturing overhead is under applied and will have a debit balance, and the adjusting entry will be cost of goods sold debit and manufacturing overhead credit. Now if the actual is less than the applied, then the manufacturing overhead will be over applied and will have a credit balance. And the general entry will be manufacturing overhead debit and cost of goods sold credit. So in our case, the actual overhead is 342 and we have applied only 338. That means it is under applied by 4,000, and if it is under applied, we have the general entry cost of goods sold debit by 4,000 and manufacturing overhead credit by 4,000. Next, let us explain how to prepare a cost of goods manufactured schedule and partial financial statement. Now, we have the at May 31st, the account of Mental Company shows the following. We have the imbalances on May 1st and May 31st. We have the debit posting to work in process, sales is 210, and we have to prepare a condensed cost of goods manufactured schedule. So for this, we are going to have the work in process on 1st of May. On work in process on 1st of May is 14,700. Then we have direct material used, and the direct material used is 62,400. We have direct labor of 50,000, and we have more manufacturing overhead applied 40,000. So the total manufacturing cost is 152,400, and if we add this to the beginning work in process, we get the total cost of work in process, that is 167,100. From this we are going to subtract the ending work in process, and ending work in process is 17,900. So this gives us the cost of goods manufactured as 149,200. Next we are going to prepare the income statement, and where we have the sales, and the sales is given to us as 210,000. To this we are going to from this we are going to subtract the cost of goods sold, and cost of goods sold is finished goods on May 1st, that is 12,900. Then we have the cost of goods manufactured, we have calculated just now, 149,200. So the cost of goods available for sales, we sum it up, that is 161,800. From this we are going to subtract the ending finished goods, and the ending finished goods is 9,500, and this will give us 152,300. This is the cost of goods sold, and when we subtract this amount, we get the gross profit of 57,700. So we have prepared the condensed cost of goods manufactured schedule. Then we have prepared the income statement for the month of May, and we have calculated the gross profit. And finally we are going to talk about indicate the balance sheet presentation of the manufacturing inventories. Now for the balance sheet, the manufacturing inventories will have three components. We are going to have the ending finished goods of 9,500. We are going to have the work in process of 17,900, and raw material of 7,100. Next, let us explain how to prepare entries in a job order cost system and cost of goods manufactured schedule. Now, Stellar Incorporation is a construction company specializing in a custom patios. The patios are constructed of concrete, bricks, fiberglass, and lumber depending upon customer preference. On June 1st, 2014, we have the general ledger for Stellar, and we have the information as follows. Then we have the subsidiary data for work in process on June 1st. We have the cost for the three different customers, Gannon, Rosenthal, and Linton. During June, raw material purchased on account is 4,900, and all wages were paid. Additional overhead costs consist of depreciation on equipment 700, miscellaneous cost of 400, and a summary of material requisition slips, and the time tickets for June are given over here. We have the material and we have the labor cost as well. Then we have you can see that we have the direct material and direct labor, and then we have the indirect material and indirect labor as well, and this gives us the total of the two as such. So overhead was assigned to jobs at that same rate of 1.25 per dollar of direct labor cost. The patios for customer Gannon, Rosenthal, and Linton were completed for 3. Gannon, Rosenthal, and Linton, they were completed during June and sold for 18,900. Each customer paid in full. So first of all, we have to generalize the June transaction for purchase of raw material, factory labor cost incurred, and manufacturing overhead cost incurred. So first of all, we are going to make the journal entry for purchase of raw material. And let me clean up. We have the raw material of 4,900. So raw material inventory is debit by 4,900, and this is on account. So accounts payable is credit by 4,900. Then we have the factory labor, and the factory labor is how much? Factory labor is 4,400. So factory labor is 4,400 and wages were paid, so that's why we have cash 4,400. Next we have the we are going to record the transaction for manufacturing overhead cost incurred, and overhead cost incurred was 700 and miscellaneous cost of 400. So accumulated depreciation is credit by 700, and 400 of the miscellaneous cost is on account, so we have accounts payable, and the manufacturing overhead will be 1,100. Okay, then we have we have done all the three journal entries. We have done the journal entry for purchase of raw material, factory labor, and manufacturing overhead. We go to second part, assignment of direct material, labor, and overhead. Now for this we have the work in process for how much? We have work in process for 4,900. Then we have the manufacturing overhead of 1,500, and raw material inventory will be credited by 6,400. Then we are going to record the transaction for the assignment of direct labor. So work in process again for direct labor is 3,200, and manufacturing overhead is 1,200, and factory labor will be credited by 4,400. Next we are going to record the transaction for the assignment of overhead to the production cost, and this will be interesting. They have given as 1.25% of the direct labor, and direct labor is 3,200. So this will be 1.25 times 3,200, that gives us 4,000. Okay, next we are going to, so we have assigned direct labor, material, labor, and overhead, and now we go to part 3, completion of job and sale of goods. Now first of all we have to record the transaction for the completion of job, and as given in the question, the job that has been completed for Gannon, Rosenthal, and Linton. So first of all let us start with Gannon. Now Gannon is over here and here as well as here. So Gannon, we have the direct material, that is 600. To this we are going to add the Gannon's material requisition of 800 and 300 as well, and this makes a total of 6, 8, and 3 as 1,700. The direct labor used for Gannon is direct labor will be 320, and to this we are going to add Gannon's 450 and 390. So the 320 plus 450 plus 390 is 1,160. So this is the direct labor, and you can see that the overhead was assigned to the jobs at the rate of 1.25% of direct labor. So 1.25 of 1160 is 1450, and the total cost is direct material, direct labor and manufacturing overhead, that is 4310. Next, let us look for the second customer, and the second customer was Rosenthal, and we have the information for Rosenthal here as well. So we have the direct material of 800 and plus 500, so 8 plus 5 makes 1300. Then we have direct labor, and direct labor is 540 plus 360, that makes 900. Then we have manufacturing overhead, and that will be 1.25 of direct labor, that is 1.25 of 900, that is 1125, that is 3325. Then we go for the third customer, and let me clean up. And for the third customer, that is Linton. For Linton, again we have the direct material, and direct material for Linton is 900 plus 1300, that makes 2200. Then we have direct labor, and direct labor is 580 plus 1200, that makes 1780. And again manufacturing overhead is 1.25 of direct labor, that is 1.25 of 1780, that is 2225, that makes 6205, and the total will be 13,840. Okay, so we have recorded the finished goods. The work in process will be transferred to finished goods, and that will be 13,840. Next, we are going to generalize the June transaction for the sale of goods. And for the sale of goods, we have to generalize the sale of goods, and the sale of goods was how much? The sale was 18,900. So cash is debit by 18,900, and sales revenue is credit by 18,900. Next, we have the cost of goods sold, and the cost of goods sold is, we have already calculated as 13,840. So cost of goods sold is 13,840. So this completes our part 3, that is completion of job and sale of goods. We have transferred the work in process to finished goods. We have recorded the sales. We have recorded the cost of goods sold. We make 3 entries for the completion of job and sale of goods. Okay, so this was part A, and then let us go to part B. And for part B, post the entries to work in process. Okay, so we are going to start first of all with the beginning balance, and the beginning balance was for work in process is 5,540. Then we have direct material 4,900. We have direct labor 3,200, and the overhead that was applied was 4,000. The work that we have completed is 13,840, and the balance for work in process will be 3800. So the work in process progress entry inventory will be 3800. And let us see what do they say. Reconcile the balance in work in process inventory with the cost of goods sold and a cost of unfinished job. So we have reconciled. You can see that the balance of work in process is 3800. So and let us see how we are going to reconcile. Now you can see that the job for Canon, Rosenthal and Linton were complete, but there is one more customer, and that is COS. Now the direct material that is used by COS is 2000, and the direct labor is 800, and again this will be 1.25% of 800, that is 1000, because you can see that overhead assigned to job at the rate of 1.25 of direct labor cost. So the total you can see is 3800, and that's how we have reconciled the balance in work in process with the cost of unfinished goods, and that was for one of the customer costs. Finally, we have to prepare cost of goods manufactured schedule, and for this again we start with the beginning work in process, and beginning work in process will be 1 minute. Work in process is 5540. Then we have direct material used, and the direct material used in our case is 4900. We have direct labor of 3200. We have the manufacturing overhead of 4000. So the total manufacturing cost will be the total of these three, that is 12,100. To this we are going to add the beginning work in process, and that will give you 17,640. From this we are going to subtract the ending work in process, and the ending work in process was 3800, and the cost of goods sold is 13,840. Now this is what we have calculated as cost of goods sold, 13,840. Okay. Next, let us see how to analyze manufacturing accounts and determine the missing amounts. So, Rodman Corporation fiscal year ends on November 30. The following accounts are found in its job, and what they are saying is we have some information about this company, and we have to list the letters A through M. We have A through M. All these we have to fill in these numbers and indicate the amount pertaining to each letter. Now first thing we need to do is we have a quick look about what information is already available. We have the raw material inventory, we have to find out the beginning balance, ending balance is given to us, purchases are given to us, requisition is given to us. So if that is the case, so we are going to have the requisition plus the ending balance minus the purchases, that will give us the beginning balance, and that will be 5,600. I repeat again, we have requisition, to this we add the ending balance, and we will subtract the purchases to get the beginning balance. Next we go for work in process and inventory, and for this we go for the beginning balance, and it is given in the question on December 1 two jobs were in process, job number 154 and job number 155. These jobs had combined direct material 9750 and direct labor for 15,000. Overhead was applied at a rate of 75%. So we have the direct material 9,750 plus 15,000 and plus 75% of direct labor, that is 15,000, and this will give us 36,000. I repeat again for your convenience, we will be having the direct material, we will be to this we are going to add the direct labor, and to this we will add the overhead, that is 75% of 15,000. Okay. Next we have the direct material, and for direct material we can see that we have the requisition 16,850, and from this we are going to subtract the indirect material to get the direct material, that will be 16,850 minus 1,900, that will give us 14,950. Direct labor is given to us, and that is good to determine the overhead, because overhead is 75% of 8,800, that will be 6,600. Then we have the ending balance, and the ending balance will be 1 minute. We have the look here, during December job number 156 and 157 and 158 were started. On December 31 job number 158 was unfinished. This job has charges for direct material 3,800 and direct labor 4,800 plus manufacturing overhead. Now don't forget that manufacturing overhead is 75% of direct labor. So the ending balance will be direct material 3,800 plus direct labor 4,800 plus 75% of 4,800 as well, and that will give us 12,200. Now we can calculate the job completed, that is part F, and that will be 36,000 to that will be 36,000. To this we are going to add the direct material 14,950, direct labor of 8,800 and the overhead of 6,600, and we are going to subtract the ending balance of 12,200. We will be subtracting the ending balance, and we will get the total as 54,150. So I repeat again, we are going to determine the job completed, we are going to have the beginning balance plus the direct material plus direct labor plus overhead minus ending balance, and that will give us the job completed. Okay, now next we have the finished goods inventory, and for the finished goods inventory again we have the information. On December 1 job number 153 was in finished goods warehouse. It has a total cost of 5,000, so the beginning balance is 5,000. Now we have already recorded the completed job, that is 54,150. Then we have to determine the cost of goods sold, and December they have given to us was the only job finished that was not sold. it has a cost of 4,000. So the cost of goods sold is 4,000. So now with this we can calculate the ending balance, and the ending balance will be the beginning balance plus the completed job, and from this we are going to subtract the the cost of goods sold, that is 4,000. That will give us the ending balance of 55,150. 55,150. So we have the beginning balance of 5,000 plus the completed job 54,150, and from this we are going to subtract the cost of goods sold 4,000, and that will give us 55,150. Okay. Next we have the factory labor. Now for factory labor we have the debit, in the debit we have 12,025. So obviously the wages assigned will be the same amount, 12,025. Finally, we come to the manufacturing overhead. We have the indirect material. We have to calculate the indirect labor. Now we have the total labor of 12,025, and we have the direct labor of we have the factory wages of 12,025, and we have the direct labor of 8,800. So 12,025 minus 8,800, this will give us 3,225 as the indirect labor. And now calculating the overhead applied will be easy for us. We have the indirect material. To this we are going to add the indirect labor 3,225, and we are going to add up the other overhead 1,245, and to this we are going to add up the what else, anything is left, and to this, yes, we are going to add the manufacturing overhead that was over applied 230. So we have 1,900 plus 3,225 plus 1,245 plus 230, and that will give us 6,600. Now to verify whether we have calculated correctly or not, we must compare this amount with the overhead in the work in process, and you can see that the overhead in work in process is 6,600. That means we have made the correct calculation. Okay, so this completes our uh, third video on job order costing, where we explained how to prepare entries for factory labor, how to compute the manufacturing overhead rate, and under or over applied overhead, how to prepare a cost of goods manufactured schedule and partial financial statements, how to prepare entries in a job order cost system and cost of goods manufactured schedule, how to analyze manufacturing accounts and determine the missing amounts. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and if you found value in this video, then please like, subscribe and share my channel, and hit the notification bell button to alert you for the latest video. For webinar and guest speaker invites, please send me a message at accountingamir@gmail.com. Remember, effective questioning brings insight, which fuels curiosity, which cultivates wisdom. If you have any question or any suggestion regarding this session, then please put them in the comment box below or by email, and inshallah I will reply you back. Thank you so much and happy learning.